Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Okokon Udo, and I'm the Program Director for the Master's Program in OD and Leadership. Today, we are gathering to explore how artificial intelligence, AI, is reshaping the field of OD. As AI continues to evolve, it's transforming everything from leadership development and organizational design to team effectiveness and employee learning. This conversation will help us share insights, discuss challenges, and uncover new opportunities for leveraging AI to drive innovation, efficiency, and positive change in our organizations. The topic for today's conversation is AI in an OD world, from disruption to transformation. It is the second in a series of virtual gatherings designed to continue to build and strengthen the OD community, excuse me, while exploring pressing challenges in the field. Our first conversation in April was on leading change while navigating uncertainty. This program is hosted by the MA program in OD and Leadership and supported by our partners in admissions and marketing. The MA program is an accelerated one-year program designed for working professionals seeking to become transformative change agents. The curriculum blends fundamental knowledge in organizational development, leadership, inclusive excellence, data analytics, and organizational communication with practical skills for addressing today's complex organizational challenges. Our students engage in 7-week courses, learning alongside a diverse cohort of professionals from various sectors and benefit from faculty who are experienced scholar practitioners. Graduates are prepared for leadership roles in both private and nonprofit sectors, as well as consulting positions, equipped to drive positive change and innovation in organizations. We are going to have a 4-member panel for today's conversation, 2 faculties and 2 former students of the program. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Trevor Meba, who is going to introduce members of the panel. Trevor, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Okokon. So, pop our panelists up on screen here and welcome everybody. It's great to see a lot of familiar names and familiar characters in Fielding's orbit, and also conversations that have been popping up in a lot of different places around organization development and leadership, and especially the AI piece. So in terms of where we're going to go here, I do have some initial slides I'm going to share. Just to give some context and give a bit of framing. For those of you also recognize a lot of names from our first OD community conversation, as Okokon mentioned, those that were there and those that weren't at our first offering back in late April. What you're going to see is just our initial opening here, a little bit of background on this topic of AI in an OD world. Angela and Shauna, Dr. Angela Patterson is here as another one of our ODL faculty colleagues. Shauna, one of our alum from the program. Our other alum I don't see in the room yet, so she may be transiting into the Zoom space, but we'll keep an eye open for her. We also have Dr. Michael McElhenney here, so we might politely twist him in for a minute or two of his perspective as well, another one of our faculty. After that, probably the first 15-20 minutes of that, we will shift into some breakout room conversations. We're finding these really complex and in some ways challenging topics. We all have perspectives to offer, things to share and collaborate and create meaning, make sense around, and nothing better than small group conversations for that. And then towards the end of our hour, we'll convene back in this large room space, virtual room space, to have a bit of a debrief, hear some of the highlights, and probably stick around a little bit longer if need be as well. Ahead of the opening bit, I'll Angela and Shauna, if Angela, you want to go first, just a little bit of a background intro on yourself for everybody that's here that may not know who you are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trevor. It's so good to see everyone. I recognize a lot of familiar faces here, and I'm so glad to see you. And if I don't know you, I am Dr. Angela Patterson. I teach in the Organizational Development and Leadership program. I am one of the first faces our students see as the leader of 501 and sometimes 502. So today I'll be helping Trevor and supporting his efforts to talk a little bit about AI in the work world, specifically as it relates to culture. I am a media psychologist by training. I'm a Fielding graduate of the media psychology program. And actually, my day job is in research. I work at a research institute where we look at the well-being of young people 13 to 25, mainly as it relates to their religion and spirituality. And we use AI quite a bit in our work. So I'm excited to be able to get to talk to you about that today.
Awesome. Thanks, Angela. Shauna, we'll jump over to you. Just a brief little bit of perspective on you and your background.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see familiar faces and new ones. My name is Shauna Betoff. I am a graduate of the MAODL program in the summer of 2023, and I'm actually currently a PhD student at Fielding in the Org Development and Change program. In my day job, I'm the Chief Advancement Officer overseeing enrollment, fundraising, and marketing and communications at a K-12 learning differences school outside of Philadelphia. But I'm excited to be here and part of the conversation with you all.
Yeah, well, thanks, Shauna. And Shazar, good to see you. Welcome to our event, and welcome to the panel. If you're in a spot, you're able to unmute and just do a quick little intro of yourself and a little bit of background before we dive in.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Shazara Deshiel. I am a Fielding graduate of this year, 2025, April to be exact. I am a new charter school operator. I'm excited to be here tonight.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, everyone. So without further ado, we'll jump into just some of the initial context setting here for everyone to give you a sense of what we're into. So I think, one of the things that's definitely pretty obvious, and hopefully the opening slide showing up here is we are very much in an AI world. We're in a time and a place of transformation that a lot of people haven't seen or experienced, professionally and personally in our existence on this planet and our time in organizations. So what we're going to do, just have a quick little agenda I'll share with you. And like I said, this is going to take us all of about 15 minutes. 20 minutes to set the stage here and hear a bit from the four individuals, myself included, you just saw on screen. I should, ahead of that, do a quick little introduction for myself. I know Oka-Kan mentioned that I am one of the other faculty in the ODL program, as with Dr. Patterson, also alum of Fielding in the Org Development and Change program. So, Shauna, I can vouch for it. It's well worth the time and investment. My background, I have quite a long it's kind of practitioner background, more in the HR space, shifted in OD and training development. And for about 10 years now, I've actually been part of a small company that's been working in the AI space and trying to figure out the whole area of data analytics, how to help organizations perform better. So even before ChatGPT and all that, this was on my radar and something I was paying attention to. So really excited to also be here today. With that agenda on the screen, we're just going to jump through it. I think we have a total of about 8 or 9 slides. I'll start off a few of them here, and Dr. AP will cover off the last 2 or 3 for us. And then we definitely want to hear from Shauna and Shazar around some of your perspectives related to this question of AI, the impact on organizations, leadership, and where this is all at and where it's heading here. So one of the things I want to share first off, and I'm thinking this might be some of what many of you or all of you have already been pondering, grappling with here, is this question of, what's coming? What's this going to look like? You see on the screen there's some representations of some of the major, I guess we call it historical periods when we think about work and we think about organizations, how they develop, how they organize, and how people lead in those organizations contexts, all the way back to the hunter-gatherer times, through the crafts, artisans, into the Industrial Revolution, and even in today's, more or less knowledge economy, a lot of what you would term, the white collar era. The what and how of work has definitely evolved and changed. What it looked like decades, centuries ago is much different than what we see in today's world. But one of the interesting things until recently is the why of work, always remained relatively constant. It was related to our subsistence, our existence, our sense of identity, our sense of autonomy, our sense of contribution, sense of development, and so on. What you're now starting to see, and some of you may have a bit more hands-on experience with this now, is in the land of AI, or the realm of AI that we're into, that question of why we work is really starting to be challenged, or become re-examined. In the past, we've had to seek survival, meaning, identity, mastery, connection, and all of those are being challenged very much at this point in time. I think, just some quick questions to ponder, knowing everybody in this space. I think we've all had experimentation time with some of the AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and so forth, and they'll probably start to wonder where is this going, what this is going to look like. I've probably found some of those tools to be quite helpful, and start to wonder, what's this all going to mean? So I think, unlike these previous transformations, inflection points in the history of work and in our existence, we're really looking at something where AI is going to have a huge potential to transform not just the what and how, but also the why of work. Another quick little thing, again, I imagine most, if not all of you, would appreciate or relate to this context, and really just to give you a sense of how quickly is this moving. Being in the higher ed space, my day job is as a full-time faculty member at a business school here in Canada. Our undergrad students are grappling with this. I know everyone at Fielding, students, faculty, staff are trying to wrap our heads around this. Just how quickly this is coming. So, if you've been watching this AI space for a little while now, there was the strawberry problem that came up late 2022 through 2023, and the generative AI models that are very popular right now, they're based on probability, based on prediction. So you could, about a year and a half ago, even a couple of years back, sit down with ChatGPT, type in the word strawberry, and say, how many R's, the letter R, are in the word strawberry, and it would give you 3, 11. It would just be all over the place. So the models just weren't sophisticated enough yet, and they failed even these basic tasks like counting. Obviously the correct answer is 3. They're based on tokens. They're they would break down the word straw and berry, and the strawberry problem became something that I think left people wondering, is this just snake oil? Is like 15 minutes is going to disappear. So you move forward, and this is going into, just barely a year later, a few months forward, and you have things like AlphaFold coming out of DeepMind, giving scientific capabilities, modeling in terms of protein folding, and being able to look at structures of DNA, RNA, molecules, biological interactions, and in a way that never been seen before. The lead researchers around AlphaFold received a Nobel Prize in chemistry. So this is this is validated. This isn't just smoke and mirrors or the hallucination that sometimes AI is known for. One of my favorites, just from a few weeks ago, this is Madonna the Rose, one of the famous paintings by Raphael. It made headlines, this painting and some of the work around it, just a few weeks ago. Top left corner, you see on the screen there is an image of St. Joseph, and for centuries now, several decades, art historians, critiquing art have been wondering, was this part of the original work or added in afterwards? they took AI models, developed algorithms, programming, and have determined with 100% certainty that actually this was something added in not by the great master himself. So in the span of 18, 24 months, we've gone from not being able to count the number of R's in the word strawberry to, being able to really create these exponential leaps in so many domains and different spaces. A couple last things I have to share with you. Won't spend too much on this slide, just as a context piece. What is AI doing in today's world here on June 25th, 2025? We're already seeing, in terms of content creation, human expertise, decision making. I'm sure everybody's dabbled with or tried to use some of the platforms as a thinking partner or to kind of supercharge, rapidly iterate prototypes through some of your work. A lot of organizations, Microsoft Office itself with its Copilot has processes, workflow optimization built into that, and just really seeing some big leaps there. A research study that came out just a couple of months ago was looking at what's starting to quantify the impact of AI in organizations. And this quick little graph you see on the screen here, one of the things they found is that if AI is implemented, introduced into organizations in the right way, it actually elevates more quickly the performance of the least skilled workers. So this has been a really interesting thing that started to emerge. Is this going to start to level the playing field in terms of people's skill and competence in organizations? Going from there, and this is going to start to hone in on what's around the corner. When we think about this whole space of generative AI and a lot of what you see right now, this interaction, basically the chatbot experience you have with ChatGPT and Claude, Gemini, and so forth, you're still very much in the first little element of this box you see on the screen here, this human in the loop, where we're just trying to leverage AI as this super tool. We're just trying to use it again to multiply our impact, maybe to move things more quickly or iterate in a more expedient manner. What we're now seeing, and some of you have probably heard of the agentic AI developments or the agentic revolution, is the center element here, which is the human on the loop. So this is where we are more in a supervisory capacity, or we're handing things off to the AI, or we're giving it input and letting it generate outcomes for us. And that is already starting to happen. Salesforce, big CRM platform, has developed a huge range of tools in this space where basically you're no longer doing the direct hands-on, customer relationship management. The AI is managing that for you. It's identifying anomalies. You're, fine-tuning, creating proficiencies around that. I think the big piece, and this is future forward, is what happens when the human's out of the loop. You hand things off to the AI and you just trust and hope that it's going to deliver the outcomes, results you need. Where a lot of this is going and a lot of the thinking, this will tie into some of what we're going to land on today, is this idea of, how do we partner with artificial intelligence, and what does that mean when we think about developing organizations and how we lead those organizations? So this idea of the human still being central to the work that's being done, the nature of work, but you, instead of having counterparts, human counterparts, you might now have an AI analyst, a writer AI, a researcher AI that are helping you out and helping you conduct your day-to-day work. So all said, just before I hand it off to Angela for a couple of quick thoughts on some slides she has to share, and then the rest of our panel, we're going to see a lot of challenges, a lot of pressure, I think, in ways we've never seen before when it comes to the question of developing organizations, and again, the leaders leading those organizations, what leadership looks like, challenges to our autonomy agency you see on the screen there. Second one is really on my attention, is the valuing of human experience. If the AI can do it faster and maybe better or more reliably than the human worker, what does that mean? That ties into how do we deal with this diminishing human contribution that's going to play out, and ultimately, are we in a bit of an identity crisis? Who and what are we going to be when AI is fully where it needs to be or ends up being? With that, Angela, over to you for a moment.
Thanks, Trevor. So, it's interesting that Trevor brings up this idea of identity, because so much of what people do every day is tied to their identity. And so one of the things that we hear most about AI is, are they going to take our jobs, right? There's this replacement narrative that has a lot of people not only fearful for their livelihoods and whatnot, but I think it also evokes some fear into who am I if I don't do the things I do every day? And if I can be replaced by some sort of machine or intelligence outside of a human form. And so when we think about on a macro scale, especially as it relates to culture and communication, we need to obviously think about the individual, but it first helps to think about the system, because ultimately thinking about the system first will then help think about the individual or help serve the individual in certain ways. And so my students, many of the people on this call who have taken class with me, they have heard me say, you only see in the system what the system tolerates. And usually that means that we're thinking about something negative in the system, some behaviors or values or attitudes that we don't like to see. But the reality is that goes both ways. The positive things that we want to see, the innovation, the spaces for innovation that we want to see won't exist if the system doesn't tolerate it. So is our system, in terms of our organization, is that prepared for AI? And so from leadership to the individual contributor, there has to be some sort of mindset shift first about how we think about AI and as it relates to our organization. That relationship is going to be different for every organization. But once an organization lands on how this is going to come together for them, then we can start to think about a paradigm shift. To simply introduce AI in bits and fits and pieces doesn't deliver, right, the kind of holistic experience that will be required for good AI. And so what if we were to think as a paradigm shift of AI as team member rather than tool? Team member rather than tool. This isn't something that we just plug in and expect to do aspects of our workflow for us. What if we anthropomorphized it a little bit and actually considered it part of the team? And what does it mean to do that? What does it look like to do that? That, my friends, is a change management type of initiative, because that's a much larger kind of shift in an organization that is way bigger than just creating some self-led, trainings, thank you, self-led trainings to talk about how to do AI in your own role. This is a holistic shift that really benefits the culture of an organization, not just its outputs. And so we want to think about how companies can do kind of the deep analysis on how the organization should shift to accommodate what might be the workforce's newest and biggest team member in a lot of ways. And so it's great to think about this in terms of a more classic change management process when it comes to culture and communication as a way to involve everyone and to get everyone on board. One of the key ways to do that as part of that initial change management process is to think about, how does AI fit into who we are, why we exist, what we do, and the impacts that we have on who we serve? And then once we understand that, then how can we put guidelines in place to better guide our employees on how it kind of interweaves into their everyday work? I think there's several employees out there that are like, well, I'm not going to use AI because I really don't know how. And I don't really want to bother with a new technology, especially one that might be competing for my job, quote unquote. And then there's others that are like, well, I would love to use AI and I use it in other things, but here at work, I'm afraid that I might be seen as somebody who's cheating, as lazy, as incompetent somehow because I'm leaning on this. But if you're framing it as AI as a team member, then you're simply looking to that source of help, just like you would a human. So we're having some of these AI guidelines to really shape, here's how we're going to look at AI in this organization, here's how we're going to integrate it, that actually empowers employees to step up and say, oh, okay, this, I now have a little freedom to investigate this, to use this, to start to implement it and see how it might work for me and my team. So when we start to think, when we first start to think about AI, we want to really focus on the system, on the organization, and how can this work as an addition to our team rather than a tool that we simply plug in. Trevor, if you'll go to the next slide, please. So as we think about kind of the more micro level of this, let's say that the organization has done the hard and tedious work of looking at AI globally, and they have developed some AI guidelines, hopefully ones that they actually involved employees from all levels of the organization to create. What does it look like when we start to get into the brass tacks of how AI might be able to serve us in terms of humans in an organization? Media psychology absolutely shows a history of how we have been shaped by the internet and how we've been able to shape the internet. And largely that is a story of personalization. We as consumers are very accustomed to being able to customize the views on our phones and on our computer screens. Even when we log in at work for the intranet or for our benefits pages, everything is able to be tailored. And when it's not able to be tailored, we usually wait and use it till it can be tailored, or we gripe about the fact that it's not tailored. And so how might we be able to actually use AI to personalize the entire employee experience? What I've got here on the screen are just 3 ways. I mean, there's a myriad of ways, but these are 3 that immediately came to mind for me as a way to use AI to offer a bespoke experience to employees without the manpower of the white glove service. And this is definitely inspired by the work that I did in corporate when I was doing this sort of communication and culture work, as well as the work that I do now. So I first want to talk about employee listening, which I've done a lot of employee surveys and feedback. But the beautiful thing is that if we're thinking of AI as a team member, now we can have the power of AI that's able to analyze those surveys, maybe in some instances even help us build them so that we're gaining better data on the front end, but they can definitely help on the analysis front. So we might be able to offer surveys more often because we have this support from AI that's able to speed up the analysis part. And then we come in with our human lens, our understanding of the organization, an understanding of best practices and what needs to happen. And we can start to distill, okay, what does this mean for our organization? What are our employees actually telling us? And then conversely, AI can also provide modes for feedback. So now we can have a better continual loop of hearing from employees. Ironically, such a setup could actually inform us in an organization if employees were having problems with AI integration. So we're using the very tool that might be causing problems in other places, but that's okay. This gives us a way to actually listen to an employee differently and perhaps tailor and customize their experience to what they're really needing and wanting in real time. So that's one way to think about it. Employee training and development. I poked fun a little bit about self-led trainings, but seriously, AI is a way to not only create said content, but also to deliver said content. And this is also a great space where those in the organization who have become AI champions and AI gurus can actually help to shape employee training and development. Because again, we have a human that has partnered with this technology and has really harnessed it for good within their own role, group, team, organization. Why not partner with them and bring them into the change process to help shape what training and development can look like in the organization? And then lastly, sharing that eliminates task burden. So here's what I mean by that. In my role at the research institute that I work at, we often do 60 to 90-minute interviews. And if you've ever transcribed an interview, you know how many man hours it takes to do that. So a lot of times, if we're in a pinch, we will use AI, various tools that we have access to transcribe those interviews for us much quicker than we could do it. In fact, it usually happens in real time. And then they offer analysis of those transcripts, which help with some of our reporting. Now, obviously, they're shaving many man hours off of our process, but we still have to go in and make it make sense for the client. We still have to go in and do some data interpretation and analysis to really highlight what we truly learn. AI is still not doing that for us, at least in our environment at this point. So it's a great example of how we're allowing our team member AI to reduce some of our task burden, to actually allow us to move faster, to turn out perhaps sometimes an equally good project, if not better. Because we've had more time to do the human part of the nuanced analysis that we needed to do. So I use that example as a way to prompt you to think about how might AI be able to reduce certain tasks so that employees can have more time for innovative thinking, for connection with their employees, even for engaging with corporate social responsibility and volunteering, some of the other things that we would love employees to do, but usually have no time for. So how can we change the narrative there in terms of how individual work gets done? So those are just some of the things from a macro and a micro perspective about how AI can shape organizational culture and vice versa.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. AP.
Absolutely.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen there, and we still have a couple more perspectives to offer into the mix here ahead of our breakout room discussions. And Shauna, we'll jump over to you and hear anything that's swirling for you around this space and some of your perspective experiences.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I will say some of this may sound a little bit repetitive based on what has previously been said, but I think there are three key points that pop up for me when I think about AI from an OD lens. One of the things I value most about Fielding is their scholar practitioner model. And so we're going to take this down a little bit less 30,000 foot and sort of a little bit more boots on the ground to think about. So when you're looking at a leader of a team or a leader of an organization, one of the things you have to do is create shared understanding around things in general in any topic, right? And Trevor will tell you I bring up shared understanding a lot because I do find it applicable. But this is a topic that makes many people very nervous, right? I think Dr. AP referred to it as, some see it as cheating, right? It's not a great thing. Others see it as a life and work hack. And so I think that when an organization and a leader is trying to help the team members, help the employees really understand their organizational culture and their identity alignment, creating shared understanding in those guidelines is critical. In an education space specifically, you have teachers who run the gamut, from I don't ever want to touch AI to, oh my goodness, I think it's the best thing ever. And really helping them understand, in my specific instance, helping teachers understand that training around how to use AI as a tool to support students with learning differences, how to individualize the program that's going to them actually becomes a very, very useful tool and part of a strategy that the institution can use and then carry all the way through in their K-12 experience. I think the second thing I hear pop up a lot in the education space is the privacy concerns around AI. And so, sure, there are definitely significant privacy concerns around AI, and there are definitely ways that are continually improving to mitigate those safety concerns. So I think about education consultants who are working with different schools and they get all this confidential data, and some of them are not super careful about what they're dumping into the AI system, and they put it all into ChatGPT and it spits it back, and there are real concerns around confidentiality. But if you're thinking about using it to synthesize confidential client information, then you should really be looking at memberships with Google Gemini and looking at the levels that you can actually get from them. And that's kind of just a really practical thing to think about, is when you are joining, an organization or working with something like Google Gemini, is your level of security high enough for the information that you want to put into the system? There is a prominent learning differences school in the Northeast of the United States who actually worked with an AI company and their tech team and a lot of lawyers to build an AI system where they actually feed all applicant data into the system to create summaries and narratives and patterns for each of their classes, so that when they're asking teachers for feedback before it gets to admission committee, they've now gotten a much better sense of who these students are, and teachers are much more likely to respond to, oh, I think we could serve that profile, or, ooh, that'd be a little bit harder for us, and here's why. But if they didn't, talk to the lawyers and set up all the privacy things necessary, I think we all know HIPAA and FERPA would not be in a good place. The third thing I often think is that organizations tell themselves stories about their history, and only sometimes are those stories true. I think that I get a lot in the education space, and I know a lot of senior leaders do, is, well, before the pandemic, this is how we fundraise. These were our enrollment numbers. This is what our staffing looked like. And it's not that institutional memory and continuity haven't been a problem before, right? But it has only gotten more challenging with time. And particularly, I think, as you're looking at higher turnover rates in organizations, and people are more willing to jump ship a little bit more quickly. And so I think there need to be ways that leaders think creatively about how to use AI to be, again, as Dr. AP mentioned, a teammate, right? But also a repository for institutional knowledge, again, set up with those safeguards. So I promised I wouldn't be more than 2 or 3 minutes, so I'll stop there, but I hope that's some good food for thought before the breakout spaces.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Shauna. And by the way, just for everyone's info, this is very much, co-creating this space. Other than inviting Shauna and Shazara next into the space, we didn't prep anything. So this is just a melding of perspectives and insights here. So that's what Roy will be doing in just a few moments after Shazara shares her perspective.
So there was a couple of things that actually came to my mind as I was listening to Dr. AP's conversation, specifically around when she spoke about, just delegating and individual work. So there's a couple of things I know for me, for application wise and using AI, when we think about developing out our organizational design, as far as identifying which model we would like to use in developing that. But there are also just a couple of things that just came to mind as she was speaking. Yes, we can say AI does have increased efficiency and things of that sort. It does assist with, data-driven decision-making and all of that. Cost reduction, all of those fun things, but then also looking at some of the risks that mitigate around delegating out. One of the things that I think that AI doesn't have is just that personal interaction or touch that comes with like working with staff and working with people and doing that capacity building work. AI can never replace that. And so I think that is a real thing and skill set that people oftentimes downplay, but it really is essential when you think about like building out systems and building out, decisions or even policies as it relates to organizations. Those things are just critical in life skills that you really need ongoing. So just thinking about also some of those challenges around the bias and fairness around the issues as it relates to it. As you spoke about, Trevor, job displacement and workforce anxiety, but then also thinking about the transparency and accountability gaps. When you're looking at like data metric systems or even just policies as it relates to your organization that could be beneficial or beneficial for the community that you're actually even servicing, how do you identify those gaps or those missing pieces that the AI didn't pick up or you might not even thought of? So I know, like for me, as far as like how, as I continue on in my own business dealings and developing out my own organizational design and development, I continue to kind of like flesh out with AI around and just use it more so as a foundational tool for like common core things, more so like things like COMAR policies with the state. We know that that policy hasn't changed. That's a forever thing. And building off of that, you know, things that are kind of like stakeholders that are already set the precedent or the tone or whatever for my organization that can really benefit or leverage us. Those are kind of like how I feel like AI can be more beneficial or be more useful in the workforce and workplace itself. And just last thoughts were really just around the ethical challenges, as everybody was speaking about. You know, how do you present, you know, your thoughts to be your own original thoughts versus, you know, it just being technology thoughts? That's always going to be an ever challenging thing. So just really just like having a brainstorming doc and just really just like writing down and delegating out what were your original thoughts. And then again, just continue to capacity build off of that. A lot of times mitigates that chance of plagiarism and things of that sort too. Thanks for letting me speak, Trevor.
Thanks so much. Some great perspectives. I was smiling as you were sharing, Shazar. I thought, you know, having worked in HR in the past, I always had these experiences where people would kind of duck and weave and they're like, oh no, here comes HR. And then I had this vision as you were sharing of, oh no, here comes AI, here comes the robot AI. It's looking for me, and people will be running, scurrying around the office and stuff. So back to, you know, our opening theme, and this is going to set the stage for the rest of our time. We'll be in breakout rooms for the last 15 minutes of our hour, and then we'll reconvene. Anyone that needs to jump off definitely can, but we'll invite people to stay even for a few extra minutes just to unpack things a bit, which will be in the recording for those of you that need to leave. But just before we get to the breakout rooms, this idea of, you know, shifting from the disruptive element, and in some ways the huge change element that Dr. AP and others shared here, to transformation. You know, how do we need, and how are we already thinking about the development design of our organizations differently, how we move through this change, who and what leaders are, what they need to be, what leadership is going to look like in this new space? That is exactly the prompt we'd like everyone to take into these conversations. With that, open up the breakout rooms. You'll see the four of us popping in and out of your rooms, and invite the conversation to go where it may for all of you. Enjoy this time ahead. Hopefully this was a good primer to open up the small group discussions. Welcome back, everyone. So good to see many of you here. I know the breakout rooms are always a challenge. We sometimes have a lot of people drop off, and I apologize if one or more of you ended up having to jump around to other rooms. We're right at our hour, and we were thinking ahead of time. We're like, oh, we're gonna have to allow a bit more time just to, you know, resynthesize, pull everything together here. So for anyone that does need to log off, we want to honor the hour you spent with us. Thanks very much for being here, for the time you've given to this, and hopefully it's added some good initial food for thought. But going to hold this space open for at least a few more minutes here, and just invite anybody that would like to offer any thoughts, any observations, any new insights, any new perplexity or uncertainty that you might be having around this into the conversation. So you can use the raise hand feature, and we'll just let people jump in from there, and we'll go to sharing the whole screen. So awesome, thanks. Dr. Michael, all yours.
Yeah, I just want to say how much I appreciate being in that short breakout group. Because we had optimistic scenarios around AI, we had pessimistic scenarios around AI, but every way of thinking about this is fascinating. It's an incredibly energizing topic. It's one that's going to touch every single one of us. So given that Philip and Autumn were in the group, and they are cultivating these kind of conversations to impact policy and other things, like the most important thing we could do is be in conversations like this and continue to work and influence each other, so we begin to gain a larger and larger and larger and more complete and full understanding of what we're dealing with. And I love that I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name, the other woman that was in our group. She's departed, but she talked about a really important element of this is that we can frame AI from different developmental understandings and apply developmental theory to it. And future AI is being thought of as having a mental model that is overt and that is governing the system. Kind of think about it as an advanced version of Asimov's rules for robotics that showed up in iRobot. So I think it's just absolutely fascinating, and I'm just excited to be in this conversation today. Look forward to a lot more of these.
Beautiful. Thanks, Michael. Alexander, can't wait to hear. You always have such deep, provocative thoughts. Please unmute and jump on the
Well,
screen.
I don't know if this, but this is, they say top of mind and bottom of heart. And for me, it's bottom of heart right here, because I was in this little group with 3 people, with Sashala and Okakan, and just what beautiful people. I mean, AI schmai. I mean, it's great. Yes, we were always talking about AI. We were on topic. It was very nice. But I am just brought back into community, and the heart connection and the spirit of engagement, but with the human connection. I know that's not the topic, but we're supposed to be right here. But that's what came out for me. It was so nourishing to be in conversation in this community. And I just wanted to say that there's nothing specifically about AI in this. It was a great conversation about AI that we had, but I really enjoyed being with. And it was a sense of not just interbeing, of intra-being. There was a real nice sense of that. So thank you.
That is amazing. Thank you. That's the room I was in. We were talking a bit about a lot about the human element, and how's that going to continue to play out, and where's the human in this new system that has already started to form and take shape. Most definitely. A couple more minutes, and by all means, anyone that needs to jump off, thank you again for joining us. But anyone else that would like to unmute and share something in, please do. And if not, I'll see if Dr. AP or our other 2 panel members or Okakan, anyone would like to share? Go ahead, Okakan.
Just quick observation, just noticing that there are AI note takers, and recalling that we did not have an agreement or decide on how that should be used. So I'm wondering if you want to just say a few words about that so that people feel comfortable based on the privacy concerns that we
Yeah, and to clarify that wouldn't have transferred to the breakout room, so we're good in that regard. And if there was anything shared in the main room, in this next little bit that you want edited out of the recording, please let me know. And thanks, okay, appreciate that. And also another great consideration is, where I did read something the other day where, I think it was a legal firm was starting to basically mandate, I'm not sure if it's, Otter AI or one of these platforms, in every single meeting, client conversation, and that. I thought that's really interesting. So they're actually having clients and client solicitor privilege space sign off on this AI, and I assume they've done their due diligence on the privacy protections and what have you. But then you go, well, what is the AI doing with this? Very one of the most confidential, sacred interactions and relationships you can have. It's protected in so many ways. What's that going to be? There's even more. You sparked for me, Okakan, thinking about the in the healthcare space, and I know Shauna shared a bit of that perspective as well, where there's a platform that purports. This is the key thing: purports that is able to do this synthesizing and meta-analysis across patient records without revealing the records. And I'm thinking, well, yes, and I'm not quite sure I would want to be one of the patients who has AI staring at my record and doing things with it. But yeah. Dr. AP, anyone else that wants to chime in? Anything you heard? Anything you're wondering about now?
I want to second what Alexander was saying and what Heather echoed in the chat. I think there's something really crucial about the humanity of this. I do a lot of work in youth ministry and in those sorts of spaces. And so I get asked a lot about the impacts of social media on kids and their faith and that sort of thing. And what can adults do about it? And my response is often, you as the adult can show them how to be more human in a world that is completely digitized for them most of the time. And I think this is another instance in where AI can actually show us how to be more human and give us a chance to actually connect and prioritize our humanity in ways perhaps we've taken for granted in the past. And so this is a ripe opportunity in this day and age to look at what it means to be human in a world that is digitized.
Sounds like a great great title for your next speech or your next
I'll write that
podcast.
down. Thankfully, because I'll forget it when we hang up.
Shazara, Shauna, knowing you were both part of our opening piece, any further reflections, ponderings either of you would like to bring in?
I will just say I think it's powerful to bring all the different perspectives together, right? It's the connection, but it's also the building on each other, and it's the building of the thoughts and really then taking it to the next level. And I think that is how we collectively learn, but also grow and move forward. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of it.
Oh, well, thank you even more so for your contribution.
Now, I'll echo Shauna too. Like, thank you for the opportunity to speak on the panel. I always love insightful conversation, but just any takeaways. I know when we reflected in our breakout room was just really just understanding. We would just like to understand more how beneficial AI can be for us in our work daily structures and activities. I mean, I think that we were in the group, Alyssa, we were speaking around, that whole like plagiarism and how can you really truly like dig out and making sure that efficacy around like ideas and innovation is really captured by that individual. So I'm curious to see how AI takes on in the next couple of years. So, but thank you for the discussion.
Well, thank you again for.
So Trevor, I'll jump in here for just a second before more people depart. I just want to thank you and AP and Shazara and Shauna for the incredible work you did today of setting the context and like bringing this to us in a form that we could all engage. And especially you, Shauna and Shazara, you are the best of what fielding is about. Thanks for where you are, what you are doing, and how you are showcasing, the power of the education that you got. It was really moving to hear both of you contribute here today. So great job, team and panel. And a word of thanks to admissions and marketing. Without you, we couldn't have gotten the word out. You were championing and collaborating with us in the planning sessions that made this possible. So thank you for your partnership in making this real.
Thank you so much, Okokan. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. We'll hang on for 3 more minutes if there's any questions. And Caroline, I'm not sure if you want to just jump in and mention anything about our next session or reaching out to Fielding about anything.
Yes, just thank you again for anybody who was able to join this session, last session. Please keep an eye out for the invite to our upcoming ODL community conversation in a few months. We'll be sending out those invites about a few weeks prior to it. So just keep an eye out. We'd love to have you all back together in this space. And if anybody has any questions about our programs, we are always happy to help. You can send an email to admissions@fielding.edu or just give me your information in the chat. A few of you already have, so I will be following up. But again, thank you so much for joining, or for those of you who will be watching the recording later, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'll be sticking around. Anybody wants to visit or socialize for a couple of minutes? Familiar faces on the screen, and otherwise enjoy your day, evening ahead, everyone. Thanks again for your time and joining us and contributing into making sense of this space. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.